Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us in the world. Welcome to Football Worldwide Presents European Weekly Catch-Up. This is episode 2. My name's Bruno. My co-host, Jonathan. How are you today?
Oh, Bruno, it's so good to be back, mate. Can't believe we're back into it. Another 3 leagues starting this weekend. We've had a short off season with the Copa America and the Euros, but so nice to have back to European football back and getting back into the club business, mate. Why don't you take everyone into account what we're bringing into the show today?
Yeah, definitely. So you'll be able to see below everything we're covering today, but I'll give a quick wrap-up. We're covering Matchday 1 results of the Ligue 1, followed by a preview of Matchday 2. We'll be covering Matchday 1 across La Liga, Bundesliga, and the EPL, which do commence this weekend, which is exciting. We'll bring you our newest segment, Around the Grounds, followed by Ones to Watch. But it is a jam-packed episode. There is a lot to get through. So without further ado, we started the French League this weekend, and it was something that I did not expect to be as good as what it was. And they talk about the French League being a farmers' league and all of that, but it was entertaining, and there were some surprises in that you know what, no one really expected. It was phenomenal. And I don't know what else to say in regards to that, but I'm sure you caught a couple of them.
Yeah.
What was your opinion as I pull up the results from this week?
Credit where credit's due, man. Some of these games were exciting. A few of them were draws, but most of them were end-to-end stuff. Going into the first match of Monaco and Nantes, mate, what an exciting game. You know, these games, most of these games, but this one in particular, it's just non-stop. They were just attacking front to back, this and that. It was just non-stop, end to end. You just couldn't get enough of it. So did you catch that one, Bruno?
I caught bits and pieces of it, but I did catch a couple of games that I will continue, but carry on throughout the piece. But one of the biggest surprises in my eyes was a team that lost 3-0 against PSG. It was 3 early goals, very early in the first half, and you know it was taken away by 3-0, who took surprisingly they took the early lead. It was only after 9 minutes, and PSG's $80 million signing in Hakimi leveled things up only 10 minutes later, followed by Icardi, who scored 2 minutes after that. But I just feel, you know what, there is so much more to come with PSG. But my performance of the round would have to go to newly promoted Clermont Foot, who won 2-0 against Bordeaux. And you got to remember, Bordeaux had, a new manager moving into this. And this was Clermont Foot's first ever appearance in the Ligue 1. And you know what? It was a very dominant performance. And I called this team here to be relegated. But I messaged you as the game was going. I go, this is fire. This is amazing the way they're playing. Who surprised you in match day 1?
Yeah, you know what? Carry on first off of PSG with their new signing Hakimi. What a brilliant goal! What a just a immense. He just oozes class, and that run he made for that goal over the top, top left corner, with his right foot, it was just unbelievable. And then for Mbappe to go across and then square it back in for Icardi, straight in the middle and all of that. But hey. Troyes, mate, they did not disappoint. They took the fight to PSG. Now you're going to say, first game back, PSG maybe a bit of rustiness to them and so forth, but they'll be better for it. They made some big signings in the off season, which we'll get to shortly. But yeah, Clermont over Bordeaux. What an entertaining game. Clermont, all credit where credit's due. Their first time in the top league. Unbelievable. They took it to the big boys, man. But Bordeaux is definitely not a team to be underestimated by all respects. But Clermont, mate, they just they just outdid themselves, and credit where credit's due. We've got to eat our words from last week. We didn't see them. Obviously, we didn't know too much about them, but they, that style of play and how they played, they are definitely going to be a team to watch this season.
Yeah, look, I think definitely, but I think that performance also highlighted Bordeaux's issues in the background.
Yeah.
And, my money's on their new manager being the first to get the sack in the French League this season. Just not because of him, but just how the club is at the moment. But last season, Metz had their highest finish, 10th. I think it's since 1999. I might stand corrected on that. And although they slipped to a 1-0 deficit after 20 odd minutes, I think it was the 23rd minute, they came back and took Lille by surprise, last year's champs, to a 3-1 lead. And it was only a red card in the 56th minute to Metz, which then saw the downfall. And it was a 97th minute goal, which split the decision there. So we mentioned that last week, Lille falling off the horse a bit, but I don't know. Is this signs of something that the downfall of the team which did so well and beat PSG only a week ago in the Trophée des Champs?
Yeah, I think we need to take it into consideration as well. It's the first match day back. They're probably a bit rusty. I'm not sure how many of them played in the international break as well, in some of those other games. But look, you don't win the league, even if they only won by 1 point last season, you don't win the league in Ligue 1 for no reason. Going up against PSG and some of the other bigger teams there, you don't win that for no reason. So maybe a little bit of nerves, maybe a little bit of rustiness and so forth. They'll come better. They'll come good. But definitely something that they need to get on top of quickly so they don't slip down further to where they probably deserve to be.
Yeah, look, I think overall it's going to be a interesting season in France. Sorry, but yeah, you'll see below we've got the fixtures as well as the results for Ligue 1, and there are some interesting fixtures. One of the most interesting, I think, in the coming week in the Ligue 1 would have to be the two newly promoted sides, Clermont-Foot and Troyes, up against each other. And I think one of the things which will play into the favor of a lot of teams is the home advantage is back. There are fans back in the stadiums, and it was exhilarating finally not to hear that automated sounds in the background. But I think this is going to play a massive part in the performances of a lot of these teams. And you know what? Clermont got the 3 points, and I think they're going to get the 3 points again if they maintain the performance they had. But yeah, look, you got Monaco traveling to Lorient, Lille hosting Nice, PSG and Strasbourg, Agnes and Lyon, Brest versus Rennes, Clermont-Foot versus Troyes, Nantes versus Metz, Reims versus Montpellier, Lens versus Saint-Étienne, and Marseille versus Bordeaux. So based off week 1, these fixtures I think they were made. I think the script was written in week 1, and you're going to see some entertaining games. But yeah, where do you see the league going match day 2, John?
Look, it's looking at the games we got coming up, it's I'm intrigued to see Clermont and Troyes, to be honest, because the two newly promoted teams, and mate, they did not disappoint. So to me, that's probably got to be the match of the round in Ligue 1, to be perfectly honest. Like it's just unreal. Like obviously you take it to consideration PSG and all the news and all that which has happened this week, which we'll get back to shortly. But yeah, look, this is what was actually nice to see. I obviously, after we finished our pod and put the video up, to recommend a lot of people to see Ligue 1, and the messages that we had received back saying, mate, this league is just unreal. so impressed for, a lot of people don't know much about it, and you don't probably think about it as much, but, credit where it's due. Ligue 1, mate, definitely providing the goods, and this week's going to be no different whatsoever.
Yeah, look, it was something, you know what, I think this was probably one of the years where you really want to focus on that league, and we'll get to those signings we're talking about. PSG, I mentioned it earlier in the previously to us starting this recording, but I think this would have to go down as one of the best transfer windows in history, and for any club. And Fabrizio Romano, who, for those who don't know, a very credible source, and his famous words, "Here we go," only 30 minutes prior to this podcast commence recording, Messi to PSG. It's been all over the news, but all of that stuff, you've had Sergio Ramos, Wijnaldum, Donnarumma, all come for free. Now Messi as a free transfer, as well as Hakimi for 80 million, and we've seen he already got that goal in. So I think this is one of the most impressive transfer windows in history for a single club.
Yeah, that front three, Messi, Mbappe, Neymar, that has to go down. Like, obviously we need to see how they combine and all that, but that will have to go down in history as one of the most prolific and dangerous front three ever. You've probably got three of the best 5 players in a front three for one team. That's just unbelievable. PSG, as we know, the defensively, which is why they brought Ramos in, they can be a little bit shaky at times, but Ramos is probably going to clean that right up for them. But what an unbelievable team this team has going through into the season and then further into the Champions League, which is obviously their aspirations, which they want to get into. But in saying that, Bruno, the romance is gone. It is officially done.
Yeah,
Messi has officially left, which we had broken as soon as it was announced.
Yeah,
But
and
Messi
I think, look, I think that, a lot of people were like, yeah, we heard the rumors last season, and, it didn't happen. But when that press conference was called, you knew something was going to happen. And, a lot of people were anticipating because there were the speculation that they had come to an agreement and so forth, which we will cover. But I think this is the perfect segue to move into La Liga. So we will be having match day 1 of La Liga. But before we go into that, you've done your research. Well, we both have. But, Jonathan, there's a reason why Lionel Messi cannot play for Barcelona. And a lot of people are bagging him about, he was getting absurd amount of money. But you're going to run us through and why, even for €1 a season, he could not play for the club in the current state.
So, as we'll bring up the match day coming for La Liga coming up in a minute, just to put it into perspective as to why Messi could not stay at Barcelona. Even if he had signed for €1, he could not stay at Barcelona purely for the fact that La Liga had brought in a new rule that you are only allowed to use 75% of your total revenue for your salaries, for your wages, for your players. Before Messi left, Barcelona were paying 110% of their earnings just on wages. So they were paying extra 10% more of what they were earning to pay just wages. So even if Messi had signed for €1, that would have brought them back down to, I think the number was 95%. They were still €200 million over budget to where they needed to be by La Liga's new rules. Now, there was a lot of speculation saying that Barcelona we're going to go to La Liga and try to get them to, come to some type of deal with the new the new TV rights that they had signed up for the league. No, the La Liga said no. You can't. It's one rule for everyone. Doesn't matter. We're going to lose the revenue whatsoever. One blanket rule for everyone. So it's not the fact that Messi didn't want to stay. He tried everything he possibly could. Now, we need to also take into consideration, which a lot of people don't know, but just to bring some light into it, Messi's contract finished with Barcelona. Therefore, he was then a free agent. Being a free agent and having to sign with a club, your contract goes at the bottom of the pile compared to the rest of your signings. You got to remember, they brought in Memphis Depay, Sergio Aguero, and Messi was they had signed. They announced them before Messi's renewal. So technically, those two were before Messi. So we don't even know if those two are going to be able to play this weekend. Okay, Aguero doesn't matter at the moment because he's out for a few weeks with an injury at the moment. But Bruno, what an absolute schmozzle Barcelona, whoever is in charge of their accounting firm or running their books, what a schmozzle that was.
Yeah, and it's not just the loss of one player, because at the end of the day, they may have been paying him a large amount of money, but the sponsorships, the jerseys, the ticket sales through tourists, let alone everyone else, now that fans are allowed back into stadiums, the amount of money that they're going to lose because of that is phenomenal. But he had his press conference. We saw a couple of tears being shed. Hours later, Barcelona went and beat Juventus 3-0 in a friendly. So I don't know if this has motivated the team. So we're going into Matchday 1. We've got the fixtures below. You've got Barcelona versus Real Sociedad. Before we cover the rest of the fixtures, just while we're on Barcelona so we can leave them there, is this a Barcelona 3 points? How do you see this race going?
Look, Real Sociedad are definitely no pushover. They had a pretty good season last season. Barcelona played so well against Juventus the other day. I know it's just a friendly and they say it's nothing to play for, but there was some link play with Memphis Depay and so forth, mate. Some of the midfield plays and so forth. And let's put it into perspective. Now, a lot of people would always argue the fact that Barcelona was so Messi driven and so Messi reliant. Now, Koeman's got the opportunity to say, we're not a one-man team. We've got a good squad here. They've brought in some good signings in the off season, so they can definitely go a lot better than what they did last season. They'll be a lot more competitive. Look, they still have some questions to answer in their back defense and so forth. But that again, their new front three, Dembele, Memphis, and Griezmann, that's nothing to shy off. That's a formidable front three. Let's see what happens with what they need to do in registration and so forth, because they still have some problems. These will probably be answered before the weekend, hopefully. So, yeah. What else we got there, Bruno, with La Liga?
So, the first match of the weekend is Valencia versus Getafe, Osasuna versus Espanyol, Cadiz versus Levante, Mallorca versus Real Betis, Deportivo Alaves versus Real Madrid, Celta Vigo versus Atletico Madrid. We mentioned Barcelona versus Real Sociedad, Sevilla versus Rayo Vallecano, Villarreal versus Granada, as well as Elche versus Athletic Club. Athletic Bilbao. I don't know how people reference them these days. But I think, again, there's a lot of stories coming out of La Liga, transfer-wise. Atletico, can they back up the performance they had last season? And there's just, a lot of buzz around everything, the whole league itself, especially with these new rules. It's one of the leagues that have implemented this. You haven't seen this across, and we've seen some of the wild spending so far this transfer window. So in the larger scheme of things, this is probably, in my eyes, will hurt La Liga more than it helps them. But if the rest of the Europe follow form, I think we'll see a much more competitive Europe altogether, where you've got some reasonable wages, to say the least. But yeah, look, there are some great fixtures coming up. We mentioned earlier Celta Vigo and Atletico Madrid. Can Atletico continue? I think all eyes are also on Real Madrid. They're traveling to face Alaves, but overall, in a general consensus of the league itself, how do you see Matchday 1 panning out? Do you see any standout, definite 3-point wins in your eyes, or is it just too close to call and you just need to see how the off season's treated these teams?
Out of as we mentioned the last week of the obvious top three, out of those three, I actually feel that Atletico have not diminished compared to last season. They brought in Rodrigo de Paul from the Serie A from Udinese. He's an amazing signing. Wait till you see him go in La Liga. He is going to be an absolute standout, and he's going to be able to show his true skill and quality, what he actually does have. In saying that, I think the Real Madrid, yes, they've had some losses in Varane and Sergio Ramos, but Alaba coming into the squad he's definitely no slouch. He is a solid defender, and when you've got Benzema up front, an amazing striker, does it year in, year out. He's transformed himself from a couple of years ago when he had some troubles, and definitely, that credit to himself. He's come leaps and bounds. I'd like to see. I'm really anticipating how Real Madrid are going to go under Carlos Ancelotti as well. Him coming and taking over Zinedine Zidane is going to be an amazing transformation for them. They maybe got a little bit stale under him at the end. So look, it's going to be a good season. La Liga is always an interesting, as mentioned last week, it's always an interesting league, and anyone can really beat anyone on their day. Yes, the top three are the pretty much standouts, but in saying that, I think Atletico is going to go. They're to me, they're probably the guaranteed 3 points against Celta Vigo, purely for the fact that they probably had the least disruptions out of the top three, and they can probably go on and perform again like they should. What do you think, Bruno?
Yeah, look, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. Overall, La Liga generally is starting to weaken. Just because the funds available to the Premier League and France, or PSG most notably. But, a massive loss for Real Madrid losing Ramos. And he was the captain of the club. But he wasn't just the captain of the club. He was phenomenal. And his goal contribution was ridiculous for a centre-back. So I'm interested to see how they go this season, but it's definitely something that we need to look forward to. But we'll move on. Bundesliga Matchday 1 is approaching, and it's approaching fast. But we had a couple of competitive fixtures over the weekend in the domestic cup, and there was some standout performances, most notably Haaland for Borussia Dortmund, who scored a hat-trick. But, we saw all the rumors around Chelsea and wanting to buy him. And, they offered 150 million euros to bring Haaland to the Premier League, and Dortmund said no. And I just think this is, he came out and put a performance that proves why they're saying no. Like, there was some great performances, and it's just one of those leagues where you don't really hear too much about it until you see the performances in the Champions League. But in the last, I'd say 2-3 years, it's really picked up momentum with Lewandowski just being a formidable attacker. But Haaland's come in and absolutely paved the way for young kids everywhere, just showing how deadly he is in front of goal. And to score a hat-trick the way he did for Dortmund was just it just reminded me of, okay, well, this is a club which signed someone and he has just not taken his foot off the pedal. And he has just been a goal-scoring machine, whether it's Champions League, whether it's domestically, So I think it was one of those scenarios where you had a lot of things happening. But what's your opinion on Haaland? Do you reckon he takes out the Golden Boot for the German League this season?
Oh, look, it'll be out of him and Lewandowski for sure. His performance on the weekend, Dortmund's performance on the weekend. Remember, without Sancho, who's who went to Manchester United in the off season. So, what was a pleasure to see was an injury-free Marco Reus going through midfield and putting those balls in for Haaland. Mate, some of those balls between the defenders and splitting the defense and so forth, just on a silver platter for Haaland to just do what he does best and put him in the back of the net. So hopefully he can stay injury-free, and he might be the new combination in regards to helping Haaland perform and go to that, keep at that top tier where he's been performing for the last couple of seasons. So they won that game against a third tier German side. And you could just see that the difference in quality when you've got Haaland up front and some of the other quality that Borussia Dortmund have in that squad. It was just obviously too much for them to come up against to put up. They did well by all means for a third tier club. Look, all credit to them. But yeah, end of the day, it was just a bridge too far for them to reach.
Yeah, definitely. And generally in the first and opening rounds of these domestic cups, you have a lot of the main league teams, so the Bundesliga teams taking on second, third division teams, etc. But it wasn't all roses and rainbows. So we've still got, and you may probably be wondering why we haven't mentioned Bayern Munich. Well, they play in 48 hours our time, so there's still a game to come. And they're playing, I think it's a third division team, to be honest. And there shouldn't be any issues there. But you had some upsets. Frankfurt losing 2-0 to a team. Wolfsburg came through. They got the win 3-1. But there were a couple of draws in that league as well. So it will be interesting. So we do have the fixtures along the bottom to show what's happening in regards to match day 1. So there's a couple of fixtures there which are interesting. And if you asked me before watching the cup, I would have said my fixture to go to in the German league was Dortmund Frankfurt, but I just think that's going to be too one-sided. But you've got a couple of great fixtures, and you know what? You're going to distinguish. I feel your top 5, top 6 teams are going to break away from the rest of the league, and it's going to happen pretty quickly.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Probably the standout game for this weekend without being too one-sided, but then again, probably the powerhouse is going to push through would be Mönchengladbach and Bayern Munich. But, the class that Bayern still have, even after those losses they had in the off-season, which we mentioned in last week's episode, it should still be competitive by all means. So it's definitely no Mönchengladbach are no pushover whatsoever. They showed how good they can actually perform in the Champions League last year. They did themselves proud and were definitely they stepped up to the plate. So, Bruno, going into some of these fixtures, who would be your standout game? I know you said Dortmund and Frankfurt.
Yeah, look, I think Mainz versus RB Leipzig is probably one to watch out for. We mentioned last week, Bayern Munich purchased their talisman. They directly weakened an opponent, and you know what that does to some clubs. It can cripple them. But a quick run through, you mentioned Borussia Mönchengladbach versus Bayern Munich. Bielefeld versus Freiburg. Augsburg and Hoffenheim take battle. Union Berlin and Bayer Leverkusen, which is good to see. Bayer Leverkusen always they always manage to cause a couple of upsets throughout the season. Stuttgart, Gütersloh, Wolfsburg, and Bochum, which is again another extremely competitive fixture. Dortmund, Frankfurt, which we touched on. Mainz, RB Leipzig, and Holm versus Hertha Berlin. So you've got some great fixtures to have match day one, but I think, the Bundesliga is one of those leagues where the top 5, 6 break away from the league very early on, and generally you see Bayern Munich take control, and they go leaps and bounds because you have all these other games that the lower teams are taking points off each other. But watching Dortmund and Haaland and how they recovered without Sancho, and like you mentioned, Marco Reus, I think there is some nice competition that will be happening between the two teams, and I think that's your lock-in for the top 2. But again, Bayern Munich, they look phenomenal, and I think this is something that we'd love to see continuing throughout the season. And again, they're probably a powerhouse when it comes to Europe as well. So keep an eye out. We will be bringing you some Champions League shows. But I think out of all the leagues, one of the most popular leagues across not just Europe but the world is the English Premier League. We have alluded to some of the transfers with Dortmund losing Sancho to Manchester United. But the English Premier League's back this week, and I think this is probably one of the most anticipated seasons, but not just for, your clubs, but the money that has been thrown around already, £100 million. I'm not talking euros, we're talking pounds, for Grealish to go to Manchester City. The rumours of a similar, if not a bit lower bid for Harry Kane to move from Tottenham to Manchester City. And then £97.5 million, roughly 115 million euros, which is the rumoured amount for Chelsea to capture Romelu Lukaku again, after selling him for 35 million all those years ago. So, there's some big money being thrown around, and then you've got Sancho, Varane, and who knows what else. If Tottenham get this money from Manchester City, they're more than happy to start spending. Aston Villa, they've got Ashley Young back there and all of that. So it's something. But so I'll bring up the fixtures for this week as we go through it. But there are some great fixtures coming up. And you know what? The Premier League is just always exciting. There's always so much involvement. And you know why it's one of the most popular leagues? And I think after the Euros and the failure of England to win the final, it just draws all that much more attention onto the squad. We saw Leicester beat Manchester City in the Community Shield Cup 1-0. Iniacho, a former Manchester City player who didn't celebrate after scoring the 89th minute penalty. But if you look at the team Leicester fielded, right, a full strength, 100% squad, and then you compare it to Manchester City's second, I'd say, string team, potentially C strength team, and they were just formidable. And you saw the introduction of Grealish and so forth, but I just cannot see Manchester City being challenged this season in regards to they've bought where they've needed to buy. And there's, plenty of time left in the transfer market. It takes, 24 hours to get that one big signing. And we've got, 18 days, 19 days still to go. So there's still plenty of time, but there are some great fixtures to start off the Premier League. Did you want to run us through some of them?
Yeah, look, let's go through some of the matches first, and then we'll pick what we think what might happen. So first match, we got Brentford and Arsenal running into Manchester United and Leeds, Leicester City into Wolves, Chelsea and Crystal Palace, Watford playing Aston Villa, Everton into Southampton, Burnley and Brighton, Norwich City coming back into the Premier League against Liverpool, Newcastle against West Ham, and Tottenham versus Manchester City. They're the matches that we have for match day one. Look, in saying just to follow up what you've just said, the squad that Manchester City have is just unbelievable. And to throw 100 million at Aston Villa for Grealish is just, to be the most expensive English player and to break the English Premier League record for a signing. Unbelievable, the money that is being thrown around this transfer window against most teams, running into the second biggest signing, which will be hopefully confirmed in the not too distant future, but Romelu Lukaku from Inter Milan to Chelsea. Now, Chelsea, let's remember the beginning of the last season, they had Frank Lampard, which they had a couple of problems with. And they brought in, sorry, I can't pronounce his name. Is it
Tuchel?
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Bruno. Under him, mate, they just performed. They gelled. Look how strong they came in the second half of the season. They had their problems up front, which their biggest problem, again, as mentioned last week, their number one scorer last season was Jorginho with 7 penalties. Can you actually believe it? So bringing in a number 9 and the numbers that Romelu Lukaku has produced over the last couple of seasons, that's the missing piece of the puzzle that they had. That is the missing piece of the puzzle that they needed. So with him up front,
I'm going to stop you there.
Tell me.
All right. You're saying that's the missing piece of the puzzle, but this is a team that won the UEFA Champions League, right?
But hold on. So I say the missing piece of the puzzle because Chelsea finished 4th. And how many points were? That's what I'm saying. So in the Premier League,
look, 100%,
they're going to be fighting in my eyes.
I think the squad depth at Chelsea has been an issue for them because they don't have like-for-like substitutions for a lot of their players. And Kante really stepped up in the back half of that season. But they finished 4th, but they won the Champions League. And at the same time, how many domestic points did they sacrifice to win that Champions League? And at the end of the day, it's worth winning. But we've seen what Tuchel did with PSG. He got them to the Champions League final. He's come in, he's taken over Lampard, and he beat Manchester City 3 times in the back end of that season. And this was a team that no one could stop. This was a team that was amazing. So all credit to Tuchel and Roman Abramovich, the owner, who, you know what, as jealous as I might be because he's investing in this club, this is an owner who's truly passionate about his club. And he's bought titles, but at the same time, it's passion you see in the owner. He's doing everything for the best of the club. So I think, look, once it's confirmed, and you and I, we're beloved Inter supporters, and it is painful to see our talisman leave, but it's more and more exciting to see him move to the Champions League winners. And to carry on that point, I mentioned that earlier that the EPL is one of the most entertaining leagues. And, I put that down to there's almost every week one of the biggest teams is facing another big team because they're all pretty big teams. And the first fixture, Brentford versus Arsenal, I really like that because Arsenal have been struggling. They've got some extremely deep financial issues. But what better way to start their season than a potential 3 points against the newly promoted Brentford? Manchester United versus Leeds. We saw that Leeds aren't in the lead to muck around. right? Bamford up front was just phenomenal last season for Leeds, and United, well, they've got some exciting new signings that we can't wait to see. Burnley Brighton is probably the one game where I wouldn't want to watch because it clashes with so many other great games. You've got the Chelsea Crystal game, Everton Southampton, Leicester Wolves, and Wolves. You'll see in the other podcast, Everything EPL, is a predicted relegation team. So, if you're predicting Wolves, and a lot of it comes down to the management change and so forth, but, Watford back up again. Norwich versus Liverpool. This is what I actually am extremely looking forward to. Last season, I watched Norwich a lot. I'm a betting man. I bet on Norwich every single week. And Pookie just carried his Premier League form from the 2019 season into the 2020 season and brought them back up. And I'm excited to see what he does. Timo Pukki does for Norwich, and Liverpool. Well, Van Dijk's back, and they declined to see, and Newcastle's on the lips of a lot of people to be relegated. So, it is an extremely exciting week across all four of the leagues. And you got to remember, there's still one more league to add into it next week.
How good is it? How good is it to have you?
How good is it? Back? So, look, guys, we're gonna bring you our newest segment. So we'll run the promo, and then Jonathan will introduce the new segment around the grounds. So here we go. Welcome to Around the Grounds.
Beautiful. Love it. This is something that we've been wanting to do. Look, it's only our second episode, but this is something that Bruno and I have spoken about. We wanted to bring into this show. So Around the Grounds is going to be a special mention of special games or special leagues around the world, which we think that needs a special mention from Around the Grounds that we don't actually cover. So my match, which I wanted to pick up from Around the Grounds for the week that had just passed, was PSV versus Ajax, winning 4-0 winning 4-0 against Ajax in their domestic Shield Cup. And some of the goals that were do you remember Mario Götze that used to play for Borussia Dortmund and won the World Cup for Germany back in 2010. So what an absolute he's found it. So 2014. Thank you for correcting me, Bruno. What an absolute gem it is to see him enjoying his football back in the Netherlands, and just an absolute Ajax with losing 4-0. Like that's a big deal. Remember a couple of years ago, yes, they got completely decimated afterwards, but they were into the very late stages of the Champions League, knocking out Juventus and other big teams at that tournament. So, Bruno, that was my Around the Grounds for this week. What about you, mate?
I've got two Around the Grounds because I just remembered another fixture. But my first one is Chelsea versus Villarreal in the European Super Cup. It's the winner of the Champions League takes on the winner of the Europa League. You really want to see it happen. You really want to see what happens in this. And it does set the tone for the rest of the league. And it does send a message to the Champions League contenders as well in regards to how formidable these teams are. But the second fixture is the Italian Super, is an Italian friendly between Juventus and Atalanta. And this is a fixture which is very entertaining, not just from the Italian Serie A fan perspective, but it's very entertaining from the neutral, because Atalanta have been absolute goal-scoring machines in the as of late under Gasperini, their manager. And Zapata up front has been phenomenal, but who else doesn't want to see Cristiano Ronaldo take on a team? And it's also extremely competitive with former manager Allegri returning to the helm of Juventus. So that is another fixture that I think needs an honourable mention because, it is going to set the tone for the Serie A as well. Juventus, Atalanta, they finished 3rd and 4th respectively last season. But with the sales of Hakimi and Lukaku at Inter, these are 2 fixtures that I think will set the tone for their leagues domestically, but also send a message out to the rest of Europe because all 4 teams are in the Champions League next season. So it will be good. But yeah, that's ones to watch. Guys, if you follow any of the leagues throughout Europe that we do not cover, throughout the world, doesn't have to be in Europe, you've hit us up, shoot us a message if you think it should be the ones to watch, or if we've around the ground, or if we've missed a fixture which, completely surprised all. And I know you mentioned Celtic earlier. To me,
yeah, that was my one I forgot to mention actually, which was my second one for the around the grounds. I forgot to mention, but Celtic finally hitting the mark again, winning 6-0 over the weekend with Ange Postecoglou as the new manager there from Australia. Represent. We gotta do it for our Aussie boys. We don't get much mention out there, so. Look, he's finally got a formidable win, and let's hope he finally takes that Celtic team back where they need to be at the top of the thing. But Bruno, going into our next segment. So back going into our one to watch, coming our second segment for this week. I am actually going to take it out of our top 5 for the first time. And I have a special mention of, again, the Scottish Premier League. For me, is definitely going to be Aberdeen versus Hearts. Now, both of these teams have won their first 2 fixtures, and Aberdeen and Hearts definitely such a rich history, and they definitely got a lot to play for this season. They got a lot to prove and so forth. So that's going to be my one to watch this weekend. What about you, Bruno?
Hey, look, my one to watch, I'm taking it to the EPL. It's the final fixture of the round. Tottenham, who are hosting Manchester City. One, you want to see how Manchester City go with their new signing, Jack Grealish. But 2, there is so much. I don't know if it's bad blood or sourness between the 2 teams at the moment with the whole Harry Kane. He hasn't returned to training. Is he going to take the field for Tottenham? Is he going to be taking the field, or is he going to be a Manchester City player? But for match day 1 in the EPL, this is a fantastic fixture. If you're going to catch any of the fixtures, that would probably be my one to watch, with a very close second to Manchester United and Leeds. But yeah, I think that's all we've got time for today. So we'll go through the formalities. Don't forget to like, subscribe, keep up to date with your top 5 leagues across Europe. We'll be providing you with fixture lists, tables, and results throughout the week, keeping content flowing. You'll see an episode of Everything EPL hosted by our EPL specialist, Mo, and you'll also be seeing Serie A Roundtable hosted by Anthony. And you'll be seeing us weekly. So I think you got also a special mention for this uniform we're wearing.
Guys, we just got our brand new merch in time for our second episode, sponsored by the Monogram Shop, yours truly. But we're going to have some special merchandise going up shortly. We still got to organize some more designs and so forth, but we're going to hopefully have that up shortly. Guys, such an amazing response from our first episode last week. Thank you for liking and subscribing and giving us all the support. We truly do appreciate it. We are going to go onward and upward with this channel, and with your support, please like and subscribe, and we are going to take this to new heights. From me, love you guys. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next week, guys.